Hey all, welcome back to Not For Nothing. And today is a little different. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I want to start dropping little interviews and talks and chats with fellows I work with here at Hope Gallery in New Haven, Connecticut. Today is going to be with Joe Santiago and Shane Baker. They've both been with us for a few years now. Basically, I'm going to let it explain itself. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but I do want to give you guys a heads up that I'm hoping to do more of this. There's 8 of us in total here working at Hope. We always have people coming in and out, and not for nothing, there's some really talented folks here, and I want to kind of introduce them here on this platform. So I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like and subscribe, please. If there's anything else you'd love to see, please drop it in the messages. I really could use some ideas. I know what I want to do with it, and I just would like to know whether or not you guys are cool with what I'm coming up with. So enjoy the show. Okay, welcome to another episode of Not For Nothing. Sorry, I'm a little stressed out right now. We just spent the last 40 fucking minutes trying to figure out the cameras. I apologize up front. I am here at the shop. I am here with Shane Baker and Joe Santiago. These are 2 of the fellows I work with here at Hope Gallery, and I would like them to introduce themselves. Shane, I want you to let everybody know kind of where you're from, how long you've been tattooing, you know?
I'm Shane Baker. I'm from Rhode Island originally. I've been tattooing for, 16, 17 years, something along those lines. I came to Connecticut because I found an apprenticeship down here after I'd asked for one with you initially.
You asked me for an apprenticeship?
Yeah. I came down to the shop when it was on Chapel Street, and I showed my portfolio to you guys, and you're kind of like, nice work, but we don't really do apprentices, and you still don't. So, I don't feel.
Yeah, I hope I've turned down a lot of people over the years, and I really hope nobody who's ever been turned off by it. It's just my feelings on apprentices in general. I don't want to bring somebody in.
No, I was so clueless. I just wanted somebody to be like, yes, you're the apprentice, come in. Because you had said something along the lines of yeah, we don't really do apprentices, but if you want to come in and hang out, you can kind of watch and you can ask questions or whatever, It seemed like that was one of those old school ways of being you're not the apprentice yet, but maybe you could try. And I mentioned this to you before, and I think you're like, well, I probably wouldn't have still apprenticed you.
Realistically, I've often said to people I don't want an apprentice, I don't want the responsibility, whatever. But I've also said I can't ever say I'm never going to have one because, like you said, if you did start coming down and hanging out and really making an effort, it could have been the kind of thing to be like, why don't you just start coming in on Mondays? You know what I mean?
Right.
I've never done that. I've never met anybody who's done the due diligence to go that far. You know what I mean? So nobody that I knew and I was really down with when I was like, yeah, I think this guy is really interesting and I think we should take him in.
I think at the time I wasn't well read and studied on tattooing enough to know that was one of those key phrases, and then I started reading Tattoo Artist magazine and Tattoo Magazine, all these different things, and I read stories of people being like, oh, yeah, no one told me that I could be the apprentice. I just hung out until I was. No one ever shook my hand and gave me the job kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's one of those weird kind of what do you do? Do you actively pursue somebody? It's just that's not really the best of.
Well, at the time, I didn't know I was doing it wrong anyways because I was just cold calling. I was showing up to places with a book and being like, hey, can I apprentice here? And everybody was like, well, look at your stuff. And then they would either give me critiques or praise or whatever and then be like, yeah, good luck.
Where did you end up finally getting an apprenticeship?
The first place was with Brian Galian, who worked here briefly at Touch of Color in Hamden.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
And it was a biker-owned shop full of drama, and I've got stories for that. But then I ended up quitting because of biker drama, and then I ended up going to work at Elm City Inc. over on Foxen, which used to be Darkside.
So now this is kind of when you got into this. So Joe Santiago.
So I started tattooing right out of high school. I didn't even finish high school by the time I was tattooing, and very quickly I realized I needed to learn something. So I did the opposite of what he did, and I was actually going to shops with a book of crap and just being like, hey, can you help me be cooler? And I think I went to Transcend first because that was the first one that I
This was when? What year would this have been? 2000, 2005?
Yeah, I think it was 6 or 7 or something like. Because I was already in when you came to us, but you'd started before that.
I think it might have been like 2007 or 8.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that long. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense because Hope opened in 2003, end of 2002. Yeah, 2003, and then Transcend I didn't think opened for another year at least.
Yeah. I briefly thought about Touch of Color because that was another one that I knew of. But I ended up going into Elm City to get a tattoo. That's where I met you.
Yep.
And I don't know. They saw something about it, like drawings and crappy tattoos that I would never do nowadays. But yeah, so that's how I got my apprenticeship there. And it was supposed to be like paid, but they kind of, I gave them like $1,000. I think it was supposed to be like 3 or something, and they were just like, "Don't worry about it. Just start working."
I think the money thing comes in. Personally, I don't think you should ever pay for an apprenticeship. I think that putting time in is more than worth.
Yeah.
Paying somebody.
It's like being an intern.
Honestly, yeah.
Except when you're an intern, you usually work for a company or a corporation, and they can afford to pay you. When you work for a tattooer, they're teaching you a craft that's going to be your career, and they may or may not be able to afford to pay you. So
yeah. So
I still don't think that's that bad.
This is something Pon and I touched on, and I honestly believe that like the apprenticeship thing. Like if you can create a position for your apprentice to actually make a couple of bucks so he can afford to apprentice.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I mean, were you living on your own at the time, living in families or?
When I started, I was living with family, and then I got my own apartment, and it was just me, and I had to work in a restaurant to support myself.
To support yourself.
I was living with my parents, but I was working in a restaurant too at the time.
Yeah.
Washington.
So I mean, I can see like where if a shop can create, if they feel that strongly about the apprentice and they feel that this is someone who's going to pan out for them and is going to make them money in the long term, then I can see it making sense to pay that person a couple of bucks to work the front room or do odd jobs and shit like that. I mean, again, this is, I'm sure, people are going to be like, oh, fuck that. But
right.
I that's just the way I feel about it. And I've never had an apprentice, so fuck it, I don't give a shit. So how long did your apprenticeships last?
I think I was like a year and a half, maybe 2 if you total it all up, because I did like 6 months at Touch of Color and didn't learn a ton. And then I did, I think like a year and a half at Elm City, but I was only working half days because I was going to the restaurant, and then like Friday and Saturday in the restaurant industry, you can't not do Saturdays.
That's where you make your fucking money.
So like the busiest days at the shop were also the busiest days at the restaurant, and like every once in a while I could do a Friday or Saturday at the shop, but like it was slow progress. And like Christian was there first, and then he left while I was still apprenticing, and Dave Rachi was like my main dude, but I kind of learned from everybody, watched everybody, cleaned up everybody's shit, cleaned the tubes, cleaned the whole place, ran the counter. But nobody ever like really sat in with me and watched me tattoo.
Oh, they just let you kind of do
it. They would be like, show me what you did afterwards, and then they would like give me a critique here and there. But like it was not cool.
We were apprenticing at the same time in the same shop, so it was the same deal for me. But they cut me loose pretty quick. I don't even remember how long it was, but I would say no more than like 4 months.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy.
He'd already tattooed before he'd started with us, so like he had a little bit more experience than me, and he was able to get in there a little bit more than me. So like he fucking was an artist sooner than me.
Like out and about. Yeah.
I mean,
that made me so jealous too. I was like, come on, man.
I don't feel like I had what I needed at the time.
I don't think I did by the time I started either, but like they weren't really fostering it super well. Like there was no organization.
See, and I'll be honest with you, that's part of my problem with somebody taking on apprentices. If you're not going to do the due diligence to do it properly, then don't fucking do it. Because all you're doing is you're breeding bad habits, and you're basically breeding somebody who's not going to give a shit. And if they, thank goodness, you guys have never had apprentices, right?
No.
Yeah, so it's like, I think you're just perpetuating it's just going to keep happening the same way. And in all honesty, I think in the long term, that's going to hurt the business in general.
Well, especially now with the way things are, you've got people that haven't seen their work healed more than a year or two that are already either owning a shop or a studio, and then they're starting to apprentice people already. And like, you might be a fantastic artist, but like we learn a lot of lessons by seeing our work come back. You learn what you did that didn't work. Maybe this color drops out. Maybe you didn't pack it as well as you thought you did. Maybe you banged somebody up, and like, You don't know until you see it healed, and then if you're just doing a lot of walk-ins, you might never see that person again.
Well, I think so. Yeah, I think that's a big deal because I think a lot of people. I think the more stuff you do, you don't see them. It's when you're able to create a client, not a clientele, but somebody who's at least willing to come back one or two more times. That you'll be able to see what they're able to, what they're, what they're doing. Were you doing decent work back then? I mean, your stuff is pretty tight. I mean,
I feel like I've grown exponentially, like, in the past, I don't know, since I've been here, really.
So the story behind Joe is Shane reaches out to me, and we hadn't really been looking for somebody, but you always keep your ear to the ground, And Shane says, "Hey, I got this friend. He wants to come here for a job." And I'm like, he's like, "But he hasn't tattooed in how many years?"
I think it was like 7.
Yeah, you just walked away from tattooing.
Yeah,
that's fucking insane to me.
I was just fed up with it at the time, man. Like, just nothing about it was a good experience from the beginning to the point where I'm just like, "Fuck it, I'm done."
So what was the tipping point?
So there was a brief period where I had like my own little private studio kind of area up in North Brantford, and long story short, I wasn't paying any rent to be there. I was just working when I felt like it, and I would tattoo the guy like once a month, the guy who owned the place.
Right.
And then he like lost his business, and I had put in I think $5,000 or $6,000 to get the space like legit
workable.
Yes, like a better area. I tattooed in it like when it wasn't so great for a little while, and then made it better. Put all that money in, made it all back like just to that point, like just enough to like break even, and then he drops that shit on me, and I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. I'm gonna go get a job.
And you just walked away.
Just walked away.
Well, it's funny. I think we're seeing people doing that now. I mean, with the way the business has been, I know more tattooers and a couple from Connecticut, people that worked at Darkside.
One dude just quit like last week from Darkside.
I think he came back.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
See, that's the problem with fucking tattooers.
I don't trust anybody that says they quit.
Well, that's the thing. It gets you. It's just like, I mean, we all know one person from Connecticut originally who fucking quit tattooing like 4 fucking times to be a fucking artiste. You know what I mean? But it's one of those things where it's like, how do you walk away from this? It's like giving up something that's a winning lottery ticket.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And again, it's harder now. It's not quite that ticket may not be the big number ticket.
So I think one of the things that people want to leave for is like the idea of being just an artist. Like, because then you're not working with the public. You're just putting your stuff out there for people to get, and you don't have to deal with the like minutia of day-to-day tattooing and like client demands.
My problem with that has always been because I got a lot of friends that are tattooers that are very talented artists. Yeah. But I also have a lot of friends that are very talented fucking artists that are illustrators. They do book covers. They do fucking movie posters. They do, they do all kinds of fine art. They do all kinds of crazy shit. And these people are fucking amazing, and they're having a hard time.
Right.
So I've always been of the opinion, you want to be a fucking artist, then throw your equipment away and walk the fuck away.
Well,
leave us a little bit of. I don't want to hear that you're back again. Well,
that's something that a lot of people want to fall on. Like, they want to go to tattooing as something to make the money.
Which is understandable. Don't bitch it. Keep it to yourself. Like, I mean, so many people, especially with social media, it's just like, oh my God, fucking, I can't stand my clients. I can't stand the way where the business. I mean, I do that too, but I still come into work every day. Again, that's my point. I don't have a backup. Like, this is it. Like, this is what I plan on doing for the rest of it, as long as I possibly can.
Yeah.
So when someone comes in and they're half-stepping or they're play acting at being a tattooer, but they want to be a fine artist, there's nothing wrong with that. Just go. Shut up and just go. Nobody needs to hear it. You're not trying to attract anybody from this business anyway. There was a lot of artists that were really talented. The majority of the people buying their paintings were fucking tattoo clients and fans, and that's not good enough for them. It's like, I want to reach a different clientele. Well, then fuck off and find that clientele.
Well, so when you try to cross that border from quote commercial art and like tattooing, illustration, comics, all that shit, fine art people in the capital F-A fine art world are like, you're a commercial artist, and they will not accept you. And Adrian Dominic was trying to do it for a while. Yeah. He was trying to be a fine artist, and he found that out, and so he tried to distance himself. That's why he's got 2 Instagrams, because he was like, this one has nothing to do with tattoos, and I don't want them to know that I did tattoos because I want to be in that world. And I guess it didn't work out because he still does tattoos, but
But Adrian never made a big deal out of saying he was walking away.
No. He wanted to do that, and I respect it because he did some amazing shit, like his show in New York with all the religious stuff.
Oh, over at New York.
Sacred.
Yeah, Sacred, yeah. I remember. Yeah, we were at that show. I met his mom there and stuff.
Yeah, me too.
That was a tremendous milestone for him, I think, because everything at that fucking in that gallery was just tremendous. It was huge. It was this huge body of work. It had a definite impact on everybody who came in. He definitely had a direction he was taking it in, and now he's kind of off in a completely different direction. But Adrian is, I mean, I love Adrian, but he is fucking out there, dude. When he was here a couple of months ago, I was just like, man, you fucking haven't grounded yourself at all. You're still just heading the clouds. God bless you. Yeah, I mean, it's killer. I love talking to him because he's just like, he really is just nothing but a ball of inspiration.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's honestly one of the nicest and most knowledgeable tattooers.
Yeah.
And he's tattooed like half my body. So, like, obviously I'm into his style. And I bought that set of prints, even though I'm not religious at all. The artwork is fucking awesome. So I
I mean, I think
cool.
I think as an artist, you're transcending style. You're transcending themes. And,
the subject matter was. Yeah. I mean, some of it's still rad. Like, I mean, the lamb with its neck slit is.
Yeah.
Is
that was the show. That was like the showcase piece.
Yeah, the card.
But I mean, you go to museums, and the majority of it is like you go to Rome, and the majority of the stuff is religious stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like it set the stand. Well, I shouldn't say set the stand. It's weird. But it's a part of history that everybody looks back on. They're not looking at it from the standpoint of Jesus paintings. They're looking at it from the standpoint of like just amazing fucking art.
Technique, yeah. We're gonna see the technique and the style and all that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Well, so speaking of that, what kind of styles do you guys enjoy doing? Start with Shane and then.
I like doing anything illustrative. I went to school. I did the whole art school thing before I quit with a lot of debt, and I went as an illustrator. But first, I was an animation major, so I've got that knowledge, and I like to do illustrative things. Like I can do realism. I do black and gray realism, but I won't even touch color realism. It's stressful to me. I don't like it. It's not fun. Aside from the fact that I've seen very few people do it well to where it lasts a good amount of time.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a big conversation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not trying to rip anybody. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think that. That's a slippery slope.
But it's a thing that I'm not willing to put in the time to learn to do because I don't love doing it to begin with. So like, the ones that I know that do it well and it lasts reasonably well, they fucking work their ass off to do that, and that's their main shit. So like, the only person I know that does illustrative amazingly and realism is Victor Chill.
Oh, Victor
dude does everything. And that's fucking awesome.
That guy's no joke. I mean, the fact is, everything that cocksucker touches is just fucking incredible. Like, Victor is probably hands down top 5 artists for me. Like, if I had to pick a top 5, he'd definitely be up there, and I'd have a hard time not putting him in number 1.
Right.
And again, young, like super tremendously talented, and just seems to be able to do anything you put in front of him. You ask him, he does it, and he does multiple styles, traditional, Japanese, and not even like Japanese his style or Japanese traditionally. It's like, I mean, he's able to wrap his head around so much that it just blows my fucking mind. Like, when he was here, I was just like, it's like, I don't want to say it's like effortless, because I don't think it is. I mean, to say that, I think is putting down his hard work. But shit, like, watching him draw, like, he kind of does what I do, where I drew more than one piece for certain people. Like, when he did my foot, he drew 2 things. When he did Tiff's foot, he drew 2 things. And I'm like, motherfucker, and you can't decide which one is the best.
Right. Yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches at that point. Like, which one do I do?
Yeah. What about you? What do you enjoy doing?
Color, just anything color. I like doing like animals and birds and stuff like that. But anything where I get to do color. I don't have an issue with black and gray. I used to despise doing it, but I'm way more comfortable with it now. But I'm just able to have more fun with it when I get to like just go through the blends and make things nice and saturated and solid. And I don't claim much as far as a style. Like, I like things to be on the realistic side, but I don't really like to.
You're not over realising it. Like, you're breaking it down to be a good tattoo.
Yeah, like I might use a reference once in a while, but I kind of try to do things more intuitively than sticking like firmly to a reference. Because you can't really, like you were talking with the realism debate, like sometimes your tattoo needs some structure in it in order to be
maybe an outline, maybe a different contrasting, some kind of more, maybe bumping up the contrast that wasn't there or something.
Exactly.
So now, we know what you like doing.
Uh-huh.
What do you get stuck doing?
What do I get stuck doing?
Whether it be because because you are kind of like you're the for lack of a better phrase, you were the low man on the totem pole. You were
Right.
the last one to be hired. You and Adam are my grunts. You were the guys who like you know your first line. You know what I mean? So and to be honest with you, I mean, you stay fairly busy. I think right now the business is like fucked and weird, and it's feast or famine. But you see the trends, you see the things that are happening. Like, what are you doing like on a daily? Let's say.
A ton of black and gray.
Yeah, so that's me too. So
Just a buttload of black and gray, which isn't really a problem. I don't really have anything that's too particular of like a thing that I keep getting, except for maybe like sunflowers, like black and gray flowers, stuff like that. You know, but it's like that's gonna happen.
do you think the days of pocket watches and roses and fucking sand clocks and
No, 'cause
fucking think they're beyond us? Or no,
No.
you think they're lingering?
No,
They're in the
I've
fucking,
probably
they're-
done like, I don't know, 10 or 15 over the past 2 years of those things.
Okay, but I mean, in the last few months, I haven't had to do
haven't seen
any
one.
kind of timepiece in a bit.
No, I haven't had to do any clocks or anything. I've done a bunch of lions too, which are, you know, cool when executed well, but not easy to do. So it's, you know, time consuming and stuff like that. But yeah, there's not really anything.
Now, let me ask you a question. With the clients that are coming in, are you having an easier time talking to them? I don't want to say convincing them, but, you know, getting them to see things a little bit differently from their phone. Because a lot of times when people they're coming in with like, hey, I want this, you know?
Yeah, so it's harder to steer people in the right direction nowadays. It's harder to convince them that, like, you should do it like this because it'll actually look good versus, like, we're going to do it the way we see it there because that's what I want and that's how it is. And, like, like size is always a big thing. Everybody wants everything tiny, and they'll just ask you like 100 times until you're just like, we've been having this conversation for 15 minutes about how I can't go smaller, but
I know, you know, this is a conversation. I brought this up before that Eric and I have had. We've been tattooing for 30 years. You know, it's like, fuck. It's like you find yourself doing something that you just know is a bad fucking idea, but you're like, you know what? Whatever, man. Sit down. I can't do this no more.
yeah, no, I mean, after a while, you kind of have to just. You've told them enough times, like they know what to expect, and that's what they're gonna get. But, you know, it is a breath of fresh air, and I feel like I'm seeing it a little more lately where people actually are like, okay, like, yeah, let's take your
They're
advice.
being a little bit more open to because I think what I've noticed too here is a lot of times when people come in, they're going to sit with you or Adam, and I know Tiff is always like, well, check out the books, see what everybody does, and like, well, who can do it now? You know, and there is a lot of that. And again, I know that would piss me off because it's like, well, now you're just looking for a fucking empty chair.
Right.
You know, but it also comes to the point that this is a customer service business and you got to make do with what you do. And the fact is you are fully capable of doing everything. I've seen you do realism black and gray. I've seen you do a little bit of color realism and you do your spin on it. Yeah. But for the most part, you're fully capable of doing anything.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that I'm particularly uncomfortable doing. It's just a matter of like, if you want it right now, that might not be feasible. You know what I mean? I might need a minute to like process how I'm going to go about it, you know, let alone draw it. But yeah, that's another thing that's going on now is people, you know, especially call-ins and stuff. You got to get them right away or they're gone.
Yeah.
Because they're immediately going to go to the first person that can take care of them, and that's kind of dumb. You know, and yeah, sure, there's a bunch of us out there now, and plenty of them are good, but it's kind of dumb to just like only care about getting tattooed and not what you're getting tattooed and who's going to do it and what it's going to turn out like.
Well, I think it's you also have to look at it from the standpoint of that, A, and B, you're hoping to get this person back. You know what I mean? So you're hoping, I mean, most people, I think, I shouldn't say most, but a good chunk of walk-ins are coming in here thinking it's one and done. Because they're most likely going to call the next shop the next time they want to get tattooed, or they may call you. The idea is once they're in that room, once they're in your chair, you really have to make that impression on them. that
I feel
the
like
next.
I do. I get a lot of return clients.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I know Adam does. I mean, you know, you, myself. You know, I think with me, I have issues keeping return clients from walk-ins because they automatically assume it's like, well, I got lucky getting tattooed by you, and I'm like, all right, whatever. But the fact is like you do got to make that impression to get them to want to come back to you. So the next time they decide to get tattooed, they don't just open up Google and look for the fucking nearest tattoo shop. They are going to make the phone call to you and say, oh, he was really fucking responsive last time. Let me call him. You know, and I think that's a really important part of like customer relations. And again, you came into the business, same with you, where that was a big fucking deal.
Well, back then I feel like it was, you almost couldn't fail.
Right. It was definitely
It was like
easier.
shooting. Yeah, it was like shooting fish in a pond, in a bucket. Yeah. So, what about you? Like, what styles and like the stuff that you're for the most part, like you're doing more in the way of like people coming for you. You do a handful of like walk-ins, but usually these guys are getting to it before.
Things that I don't really want to do, or things that I do. I don't like doing the fine line stuff. I don't enjoy it. I don't find it fun. And then, you know, especially because some people want to like get fine line stuff on my knuckles. I did that for one of my friends. Didn't go well. I had to redo them like 2 or 3 times. I don't want to do it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy the look of the style. I don't like what I have to do it.
A fine line to me is like a 5.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not using a single needle ever.
See,
I use a 3 if I need to, but like I don't love doing fine line work. I just don't like that.
I came into
delicate
this
look.
like, I mean, Eric and the old body piercer, who's now my barber Jimmy Dillon, they dubbed me Joey Razors back in like in the mid '90s because I would mainly do I did a lot of tight 3 and tight 5 because I came in. You know, in the shop I worked in, it was a lot of like every day you did this tiny little rose. It was like this little fucking. There was a Jack Rudy rose, there was a JD Crow rose, but it was like a tight 3 because it was tiny. The bud was like that big. And again, we weren't a traditional shop, and I didn't even know what traditional was back then. You know, so for me it was like to pull that off where I know it's going to last. It's a tight 3 and a 4 flat, and every single day you did at least 3 or 4 of those a fucking day. So it was tight 3, 4 flat, boom. After a few months of that, you just did the whole thing with the fucking tight 3. You get tight 3, fucking color it in, and you fucking bang this little bitch out. And it was, so everything we did, everything was tight 3, tight 5, 7 mag, 11 mag. It was set up like that.
Yep.
And Eric was coming in from Dark Side, and Dark Side was all, you know, open 7s, open 9s, like big fucking heavy lines. So they were just like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, dude, you came to me. It's not like I don't tattoo that way, man,
right.
You know? So, but yeah, it's like, but I get it. But the only way you get good at it is to continue to do it.
I use type 3s. I don't like doing lettering either because I don't like to draw.
I'm not a fan of lettering, but yeah, I get it. I get that.
So when I worked at Darkside, it was Sean O'Hara that had me using type 3s. He's like, oh yeah, I use a 3 for all my lettering. And it was all super crisp and tight. And I was like, wow, I can do that. And I started practicing with it and I got good with it. Then when you use like a 7 or a 9, it's like driving a Cadillac. It's fucking luxurious. So you're like, this is great. So I can do it.
I think
just don't want to
with
do
someone like Sean's a technician. So
yeah.
And again, the guys at Darkside like Eric, Lou, you know, Adrian at one point, fucking Julio. I mean, these guys were more technical, and then it kind of went off on the new school side of things, and things kind of blew up for New England in general that way.
Yeah.
So so you just don't like anything tight. So for what you do enjoy though is more your little weird goblin.
Absolutely, creatures, any kind of creatures, weird shit that doesn't exist, stuff that I get to just dream up and make something that wasn't there and create it. So that's the fun shit for me. Fantasy, sci-fi, video games, comic books, movies, anything.
I like
anything
that
that's got
stuff too.
monsters.
I just never get to do it.
Yeah, he's like, Joe's like, by the way, don't throw it all at him. Like, I'm down with that shit too. I've got I like fucking, we were talking about Fallout and all kinds of other silly shit.
Yeah, I play video games. And, you know, I like that stuff too.
You know, I think what I've seen, what's happening in this shop, what I've spoken to a bunch of people, like I think a lot of tattooers have become tattooers. They're not tattoo artists anymore. They're like, I shouldn't say anymore, but you have to put on the hat of, I'm a tattooer, you come to the shop, I'll take care of you. What do you want to get done? It's done. I'm not going to just, no, I don't do that kind of stuff.
Well, as a walk-in guy, that's like mandatory. You know,
Yeah.
You have to figure out how to make it work when it's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right. But even the guys here, like Eric, Timmy, I won't say Phil, but Christian, like these are all guys that have their own clientele. But the fact is, they'll do anything. You know what I mean? You go into their rooms at any given day of the week. They're not just doing one style thing, where at one point we all were known for just doing one style of thing. Now we're all doing whatever. You know what I mean? Shit, my tattoo today was a black and gray animals and bugs and shit. You know, yesterday was a fucking, a skull, a black and gray skull. Dude, I haven't done a color tattoo in so fucking long. It's fucking depressing. But yeah, it's like black and gray is like the new. It's not. It's always been. It's never. I mean, I started doing black and gray, got into color, and now I'm back to black and gray. Apparently, you want to add anything on that? I need something.
It's Sam Fiorino that I used to work with at Night Owl gave me this quote that I live by now, because I was all bummed. Like, I went to Night Owl and thought I would be doing like new school all the time, and I was like, and then it was like tough making ends meet sometimes because we're a shop full of new school guys, and all of them were killers. So like, we're fighting ourselves for clientele. And Sam was like, some days you make art, some days you make money.
Yeah, that's
I was like, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna fucking use that shit.
That's an old one, dude. That's classic. I mean, and it's the truth. The fact is, nobody here's a prima donna, for the most part. And then on top of that, like, we all just want to make money. We all just want to have a living. We just make a living. Yeah. So, nightmare stories or something funny from a client.
Oh, jeez. There was a girl that was definitely on Xanax when she came in here, and she's a sweetheart, and I tattooed her multiple times.
Oh, this isn't the girl who we had to call an ambulance for, is it?
No, she wasn't on anything. I've been tattooing that girl for damn near a decade, and she passed out cold.
She turned fucking blue, dude.
I thought I had killed her. It was scary. I've only had 2 clients pass out in my whole career. She was wheezing and turned blue, and I was like, I fucking killed one. Like, do I go to jail though?
The black bomb.
It was fucking scary. No, this other one, she came in, and this was when I was still more of a walk-in guy. I think it was before Adam and Joe had both started here. So like, this girl came in at like 6 or 7, and I ended up being the catch-all that day. And she's sitting at the table, and this is when Phil still used to work later. So he walked by, and he's like, "Is that your girl at the table out there?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm just drawing something up for her." He's like, "She just went to reach for her water, and she missed it 3 times." And I was like, "Uh-oh." He was like, "Yeah, I don't know." And I was like, "I mean, she already did her paperwork. She signed off and said she's not on drugs." And he was like, "Good luck."
You can't believe the paperwork, really?
I don't know. I mean, I had to make the money.
We had somebody we're talking about that. I heard a story where she was pregnant and she lied on the paperwork, and somebody ratted her out.
Fuck. Yeah, that's scary. I wouldn't want to be anything to do with that. But yeah, so long story short, this girl was in a rough state, but it was because she had been on a psychiatric hold and decided all of a sudden, I'm going to get tattoos because I'm free in the world, and that's a thing that I can do.
Oh, Jesus.
And she had previously been going to another shop locally, and the dude did a bunch of work on her. She didn't pay, but there might have been some weird thing. I don't know. There's a bunch of weird story. And I was like, well, this one you have to pay cash for. Like, there's none of that shit's going to happen. And she was like, yeah, no, that's fine. And like midway through the tattoo, she ended up like calling someone and talking to them. Hey, you have to come to the tattoo shop to pay for my tattoo. And I was like, uh-oh. I'm not getting paid today. There's no way. And then like she got off, and I still working on her. I was like, so when's your friend coming? Should I go like unlock the door? Are they going to call you? And she's like, oh, they're just going to Venmo you. And whenever we're done, you just tell me how much it is and they'll Venmo you. And I was like,
well,
okay.
That's sketchy. That's the problem with fucking stuff like Venmo
I
and
don't
shit.
use that shit, dude.
I was the only one here too. So I was just like, what do I even do? I just got to do it, get the money. And otherwise, the police are right across the street. We're like, hey, come get this girl. That's memorable. I don't know if it's a nightmare. I've probably got worse ones, but I can't think of anything off the top right now.
I was going to say, it's always hard to kind of come up with that.
Yeah.
It's too numerous. Like, I can go on and on about people being a pain in the ass and stuff like that.
Well, pain in the ass is one thing, but there's got to be one
There is one.
major pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it a pain in the ass, but it was like, whoa. It was a friend of mine. It was back when I was at that private studio in North Brantford that I had for a minute. I was tattooing him. I guess, afterwards he had told me that he had just come from the gym. He had like 2 monsters and a cup of coffee or some shit like that. Anyway, I'm tattooing him, and he just goes out. Like he just slowly, like I see the life just leave him, and he just goes down. And I tried to catch him, you know what I mean? Like I threw the machine down and tried to catch him, but he's way bigger than me. I'm not a big dude. So he fucking goes down like kind of hard, and he has a full-blown seizure.
Oh.
Big time.
Well, was it a seizure or was it like just like the shakes from...
No.
It was a seizure.
Yeah, he like threw up like everywhere, didn't know where he was when he woke up. Like it was a big fucking deal. But luckily Sam was there, and I was like, call the ambulance like right now.
It's like... Now, were you tattooing in the studio legally, or
No, not at all.
So did anybody question it when they came in, or no?
No, he was up before they got there.
It's like, dude, you got to meet the ambulance on the street.
Well, no,
they
I was
can't
like,
come back
I was
here.
like, let's go get some fresh air. You know, like we were like good for a minute. And
We got some, okay, you keep going. When the cops show up, just tell them what you weren't feeling good.
But yeah, that was kind of like probably the biggest deal that's ever happened while I was tattooing anybody. But you know, other than that, I haven't really ever had anyone pass out. It only happened twice, and the first one was...
You've only had 2 people pass out.
Same.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Dude, when I first started tattooing, I could knock anybody out. I shit you not, dude. I was my first 3 months tattooing. I'm fucking, like, literally, I would start off with the same routine, and this is why I know this is probably part of it. I'd be like, hey, if you're not feeling anything, you're starting to feel hot or lightheaded, please let me know, because it means you're going to pass out.
Yeah.
So the moment you put that little nugget in their fucking head, they're just looking for it. Whether it be subconsciously or not. They're just waiting for it.
I tell people that same thing because I know all the symptoms and the signs, and like the first time it happened to me, I was tattooing a dude when I was still an apprentice, but no one was minding me. I was in St. Thomas tattooing a friend, and he got real like sweaty and pale. He was Mexican, and he was like gray, and I was like, uh-oh, something's going on.
That's
here.
not good.
He was also drinking a beer, and we hadn't eaten anything yet, so like it was a bad setup, but like I knew what was going on, so like, you know, cold compress on the back of the neck, give people sugar, lay them down if you got to, all the different things. I know how to stop it happening. But you have to let me know it's going to happen.
Sometimes
Otherwise,
you're better off when they go out, though. I mean, that was one of the things, too, because if you catch them before they actually go out, it takes like fucking 40 minutes for them to come back around. Now they're just gross, they're sweaty, you gotta make them go to the bathroom, clean up. But if they just pass the fuck out and get it out of their system, then it's like, you know what, it's not gonna happen again, you're good. I've only had one person pass out twice.
I don't know, the girl that we were just talking about that turned blue, I sent her home after that. I was like, bro,
Yeah, because you didn't even know what the fuck was wrong with her.
I thought she was gonna
like,
die.
literally,
So, my heart rate was way up.
We had fucking EMS here, dude. Like, and they're just like, you need to go to a doctor. She goes, I'm fine. I'm like, no, you're not.
She couldn't answer where she was, what town she was in. She knew she was at Hope, but she said a New Hope.
Yeah, New Hope. This isn't Jersey.
And then she was like, they were like, who's the president? She's like, used to be Trump.
Oh, wow.
And like, those are their 2 go-to questions. She's like, do you have other questions? I can answer other stuff.
She's like, bring me some more.
You're
I got
supposed
this.
to know those ones. They're important. Yeah, it was bad.
It didn't happen to me, but when I was working at Big Joe's, I remember somebody was tattooing this girl, and she asked for a break, which that happens all the time. They want to go get some water or whatever. And she asked for a break, and she didn't go down, but she like, she kind of like...
Dude, that was another thing. Whenever, like, again, you know what it is? I think part of it is the time. It's the day and age. So I'm talking like 93 when I was knocking fuckers out. like just full on. Like, I would give that thing, and then they would just be like, what? The second somebody, and it took me about 6 or 7 people passing out before I recognized the signs. When someone's sitting there getting tattooed and they feel a little clammy, and they go, can I take a break? Or they go, hey, I gotta use the bathroom. Like, it took me a couple times to realize, I'm like, oh, this fucker's going out. And the worst thing you can do is let somebody get up, because the moment they get up, the blood rushes to their head and they just go down.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember, like, one time working in the shop, one of the guys that was there, he tattooed a big, yoked up fucking dude, and I heard the same thing in the back of my ear. I hear, hey man, can I use the bathroom? And, you know, Sib's just like, yeah, go ahead, it's right around the corner. And literally the guy got up, and all you hear is, and I knew it. Like, it was one of those things, you knew it. Like, this guy's not doing well. And you heard this motherfucker hit.
Oh,
so, like, he bounced off the countertop and then fucking ricocheted into the toilet. And as he was fucking falling, he must have, like, caught himself on the fucking sink and ended up, like, wedged between the toilet and the fucking wall. I mean, and it was tight. And his fucking hand is in the fucking toilet, and he's just like... and we all jumped up to look, and he's like, oh, shit. And this is before cell phones, because everybody would have been like... oh shit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we couldn't do that back then. But yeah, this guy went down. But it took me like I said, 7 or 8 people to realize. I'm like, yeah, don't let people get up. Like, no, sit down.
You stay
relax,
here. Let
blah,
me
blah,
get you something.
Yeah. Or you just fucking be like, you're not feeling good? You sure? Yeah. And just ride it, watch them pass out, and then 15 minutes they're fine.
I usually make them sit there for a minute when they ask. Like, I'll clean them up real good and like take my time putting the ointment on. You know, just to like give them that little extra.
Yeah, they're fucking stewing out anyway. They're just looking at me like, I don't. Why is this taking so long? Like, they could give a shit at that point. And you're right. Sometimes it's better to, but sometimes it's just, make them pass out. Just easy. But again, it's a different day and age. Like back then, people were falling out like crazy. Machine knowledge. So both of you guys came in at a time where coils were the preferred machine.
I think we both had bought rotaries, but after our apprenticeship. Like, I didn't touch a rotary until I had already been using coils for a while. No one ever taught me how to make needles or how to tune a coil machine. Christian tried, but Christian, as talented as he is at everything he does, he's not always the best teacher. And so he's like a great doer, not always a teacher. And he was like, yeah, hear it. All right, you hear it? You hear it go, man. And I was like, yeah. He's like, that sounds good. Hear this? Man. That sounds bad. I was like, it sounds exactly the same. He's like, no, you just got to listen to it. And I was like,
it's like
okay.
You got to be part of the machine.
I just tried to do it by sound, and it always sounded the same to me. I was like, this sounds high, this sounds low, but it all sounds vaguely the same.
Dave taught me to do it by feel, like putting your finger on the armature
he tried
bar.
to teach me that too, and none of it really got through. I mean, I made some tattoos that weren't terrible, and then some days I was like, man, my machine's fucking up. It's out of tune. I don't know how to fix it.
Well, that's the shame of it, and I think that's one of the reasons I think that you should learn how to work with a coil machine. Because first of all, I mean, and again, this is going to be up for debate with everybody, but it's like, I mean, I know for a fact I lined better with coils than I did with most rotaries, especially pens, But again, having said that, I just got a brand new pen from fucking Brazil that is fucking stupid amazing. But it's one of those things like, I think that you should have it's the same thing I think with styles and different techniques of tattooing. I think you should try everything before you set on one thing.
Yeah.
And again, coils are something you can hold on to for the lifetime.
I think the time like that we came up into it was a good time because all the new like fucking pneumatic stuff and all that was all like cutting edge at the time. So like coils are
what the fuck pneumatic is cutting edge. No. I will admit that I think the Numa machines actually forced the door open for rotaries. Yeah. Because I think so many people jumped on the insane idea of a fucking air-powered machine. But the fact of the matter is, I think it opened the door because it's just a rotary machine. It just runs off of different powers.
Yeah, but back then, the primary thing that we had were coils. Everyone in the shop was using coils. Right. I didn't even own a rotary until after, I think after I left New York. I only coils. So, if I need to use one, I can, but I'll tell you, I'm never looking back.
No, it's funny. I went down the rotary. I went down the rotary road back in 2000. We moved here in 2009, so I went down there around 2007, and I started futzing around with rotaries. But I was still lining with coils, and I did that until I think we moved here in 2009. And it wasn't until I tried to go back to coils maybe 5 years ago where it actually started bothering my hands. I never had an issue on my hands until I went from rotaries to coils again, and now I'm strictly rotary. But again, I also fuck around with all kinds. I mean, I have a ridiculous amount of machines. Mm-hmm. You're not uber picky. You've got the two of the machines that you have. I don't even know what they are. What are you using for machines right now?
I'm using a Bishop liner, and then I'm using 3 Amazon dildo pens.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. Well, it's again, I am a firm believer in it's not the equipment, it's the artist that carries it through. I think certain equipment may last longer, maybe a little bit better, but I mean, the fact is you can work with anything.
Honestly, those things for what I like to do, they're awesome. Yeah. I don't even want new ones. I started with just one, I think, and then I was like, I'm gonna buy 2 or 3 of these.
Yeah.
So I have 3 now. So I have 4 machines that I use on a daily basis. And,
What's the longevity on those machines?
I've been using them for like 3 years without an issue. I just like once a month I'll put some lube in there and that's it.
Yeah.
So pretty good so far.
Nice. And what, now, so I don't want to throw anybody under the. I'll drop that. Yeah, no, fuck it. Out of the 2 machines, one you paid
One I
probably
paid,
close to $1,000
Yeah.
for, and the other one you paid what, $150 for.
yeah, I think with the battery and everything, it might cost somewhere in the range of like $200.
So what are your thoughts?
Um,
And I'm not looking to throw Bishop under the bus. None of us are sponsored by
I'll be
them.
perfectly honest. I don't like lining with the Amazon machines. I do
Okay.
like lining with the Bishop.
So you know there's an actual difference.
Yeah,
Okay.
I bought it for like the throw on it. You know?
What their liner? What's the throw on the liner?
I think it's 5 millimeters.
Oh, so it's a really really long. Throw.
Yeah, so
I thought that was their heavy black, their solid black.
I think it's the same machine.
Okay. It's funny how like a lot, especially the pen machines, like they're. I don't want to say they're tricking people, but they're basically telling people it's like, oh no, you could do it with this now and use this one for that one, and again, I get it. I mean, I never used like a 3.5 millimeter throw for like anything really, and then I started lining with them when I got the transverses, and now I'm starting to do black and gray with them, and there is a difference in the way that I work and what my work looks like. So I think that again, just another reason why you should fuck around with different shit. You know, but
What was your norm before that? Were you using a longer stroke or?
Normally, most everything I ever had, including my coils, were always minimum 4 millimeter stroke.
Oh, shit, okay.
So it's like I got used to doing that, and it wasn't until the transverse came out that it had a shorter stroke on it. And at the time, it was because the motor was so small, it was harder to get that motor to push a longer stroke. As time progresses and the technologies get a little bit better, or I should say, as they find better motors, they're able to change it. So now I think the transverse is a 4.2, or it's minimum 4. And I use that thing for everything. But then fucking Paolo just fucked my shit up by putting out a new pen with it just has a different adjust. It's got an adjustable. The throw stays the same. It's a 4 millimeter stroke. Throw, but there's an adjustment in it that gives you the back off of a coil. So imagine like a pen that reacts like a coil. And it was one of those things when he was telling me, he's like, Joe, trust me, you're going to love this machine. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And I used it, and first time I used it, I was like, dude, this thing's a beast. And he's like, do this. And he told me, he has a breakdown on how much you let the thing back off for lining and shading and how many volts you use and stuff, or amps and stuff. And when he gave me his breakdown, I started using it, and I'm like, fuck. That's really fucking good. So it's like it did change the way I think about machines, as well as the way I'm using those machines now. So normally literally I spent the last 3 podcasts talking to people being like, yeah, I'm kind of whatever about pens. These are my fucking machines. And the last fucking 5 days, that's all I've been using is this fucking pen, because it really is killing it.
Yeah.
But I'm also of the opinion that I'm like every other tattooer, that, you use this thing, it's the best thing you've ever used in sliced bread. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, this machine's here now, and this machine's amazing. I can't believe how great this machine is. And you use that for another 3 months, and then out of nowhere, you decide to pick up the first machine, and you go, why the fuck did I put this machine down? This machine's amazing.
We're a meme. We're that meme with the dude looking at the girl that's walking by and his girlfriend's mad, and it's just another machine.
Yeah, well, but I think that it's also the fact that I think that's why it's good to. Oh, and when I had coils, I would always bounce around with coils. I had like a dozen coils that were sitting on the shelf, 6 liners, 6 shaders, and it would be the kind of thing. It's like, I feel like using a yellow machine today. It had nothing to do with what I thought could do the job better, because I think they were all really good machines. But it was like, I feel dark. I'm going to use this rusted old fucking Aaron Kane machine that I have. So it really had nothing to do with anything other than, I like that machine. You know what I mean? And that's half the reason I was attracted to most machines, was the style of frame and whatever,
The Amazon ones I got, there's like a picture of corn on it. It's retarded.
Why?
Like Corn the band?
I think they
not the band corn.
No.
Oh, I was gonna say that's
like an ear of corn.
I was gonna be like,
I
you're
think it's because like
fired.
the thing kind of looks like a corn with like the husk on it.
Is it called the kernel?
No.
Ooh, that would be amazing. The kernel. How has nobody done that? Oh, fuck. That's gonna be my machine, the kernel. Fact of the matter is, everybody's more down with rotaries and coils.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried all of the different rotaries. Like when I started, I had one of those, I think it was like a Swiss Army one or something. That was the first one. And I'd shoot some people up.
Okay,
with
it wasn't Swiss Army.
Swiss.
I think it was just called the Swiss.
Okay, Swiss.
It was
I don't know.
the Swiss Army. Yeah, no. So
Did you
that
know
was
Poland
Swash.
Spring makes
Yeah.
vodka?
Well, Swash Drive was Australia, and then the Swiss machine was it was that black machine. I can't remember. It was a basic standard looking frame direct drive machine.
It just kind of looked like what Neotats look like. The like little round thing with like a tube grip, tube vise. I fucked people up because I didn't realize it had no give at all.
No,
And
those
I was
direct drive machines, you really had.
I was trying to
fucking
line with that thing, and I was doing some kid's collarbone, and I just fucking blew out everywhere.
You could see it like you could see the ink travel all the way up to his fucking throat.
Spider
It's like-
webs, and I was like, I don't know about these rotaries, man. And then I went to Dark Side, and this guy Izzy was over there, and he was like, I got this Stigma rotary, and it's dope. And I tried it, and like, whenever I had coils, I used to like saturate and then wipe, and like 30 to 40% of what I just did was gone. And I was like, fuck, it takes forever to do this shit. And then I tried with the Stigma, and everything I put in was still there, and I was like, this is my new machine. I gotta get some of these. And then went from that to Neotats, Cheyenne, and fucking
Yeah,
everything.
Neotat broke the mold when, like, because at that time most of the rotaries were coming in from, they were either customs or they were being made overseas.
European. Yeah.
And when you got them there, they were $500-600 plus shipping and everything else. And then Neotat came out, it was like $250 for those machines, and they weren't pretty. I mean, they were butt ugly.
The first one looked like a little lunchbox. It was just like
Yeah, they were just,
rectangle.
but they were from the standpoint of being cleanable and everything else,
Yeah.
and they were a bit chunky and heavy. But those machines did the job. And then Bishop came out and they kind of streamlined theirs. It's almost the exact same machine for the most part. And I think that it just kept getting better and better and better. Now the pen technology is through the roof, and I will admit, I still prefer the back weight of a regular style machine. You know?
I don't like the back weight, and I don't know. I just never got comfortable with it. I mean, I think part of it, I don't know. Maybe it was because I just drew forever, so I was used to a pencil or a pen.
Yeah,
or
but I also have been
like,
tattooing for
I think
Twice as
close
long
to
as
20
me,
years before I switched.
I think
you know?
disposable tubes made it worse because
Yeah.
it's like
Fuck yeah, that was the biggest thing. Like make it so when I first started traveling, not when I first started traveling. Well, when we first started traveling back in the day, you used to have to bring all your sharps home. You used to have to bring all your metal tubes home. Like, dude, going through the first time I did the London convention with like a fucking Tupperware full of metal tubes and a little like a bottle full of fucking sharps.
it sucks.
And not even sucks when you think back on it and the fact that somebody from TSA was going through your shit. Because keep in mind, like when 9/11 happened,
Right.
Yeah, dude.
shit changed. You know?
metal in your luggage after that shit. They're like, what do you got?
Exactly. And the thing is, you try to explain, don't touch any of that stuff if you have kids. 'Cause you're
Technically,
gonna have-
that's biohazard. Don't
Yeah,
fuck
exactly.
with it. They're
But
like, it's a
that's-
dirty bomb.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's well, okay, exactly. What? Oh my God! He's trying to kill everybody.
Anthrax.
But yeah, no, that was like we used to travel. I did that for God, probably 7-8 years traveling with
Yeesh.
metal tubes and stuff. Looking back on it, I can't believe it. But now it's like, and then when we started switching to disposables, you're like, it sucked, but it was so nice to not come home with dirty shit and not have to throw stuff. You still came home with sharps some of the times because most of the conventions back then didn't provide sharps containers.
Well, that was probably the original intention of like making them, but then, everybody's just like fuck scrubbing tubes.
Right.
You know,
Why
but the
does
thing
Shaw
is,
not
it's
throw
funny.
out?
Like I'm on the fence with that nowadays. Like when I look back on it, is the fact that I look at the amount of waste we have, and I've been trying to figure out is like, well, how can we be more, better to the environment? And you look at what we do, and the fact of the matter is, dude, we throw away a ton of shit. And and metal tubes was one of those things. And I feel like a hypocrite saying this, but they were one of those things that's like, fuck, dude, like you have a metal tube forever. You know what I mean? And it's better than the plastic shit we're using, I mean, some of the stuff I'm using from Electric Ink now is biodegradable. But again, that's still not perfect. And the pen things are probably the closest you come to that. You have the cartridges, you still have to throw away. Half it's plastic, half it's metal. So that is a double-edged sword,
But man, those cartridges make traveling so much fucking easier.
Yeah, no,
A
it
lot
does.
less in your luggage.
No, it totally does. I mean, like I said, that's why I laugh when you see these younger tattooers coming into the game and they're just like, traveling's easier. I just throw my bag over my shoulder and go. And it's just like, oh, fuck off. Could you imagine your bag weighed 40 fucking pounds in tubes and just be like, what? So.
Yeah, honestly, the ink is probably the heaviest thing you got.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
that's the most pain in the ass part.
Yeah, most of the stuff you can get while you're at the convention. I still to this day, I show up with everything I need. If I have to buy something, I'm gonna get mad at myself because I forgot something.
I'm currently procrastinating an ink order so I can get it at Hell City because I don't want to have to deal with ordering it and doing shipping.
Fuck.
I mean,
actually, Hell City will have Hell City, like, because did you go to the New England show? They only had Starbright.
No, I did that last year looking for Eternal or Fusion or something, and I couldn't find anything.
It's sponsored by fucking Tommy,
right.
So
I didn't think of that part.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking
so. Well, getting on to the idea of traveling with a bunch of fucking heavy duty shit that we probably shouldn't be traveling with. It should never leave the shop. Travel experiences. You pretty much have gone nowhere. Like, have you ever even left Connecticut? You have left Connecticut.
I've left Connecticut, but I haven't gone anywhere I can't drive to.
So you've never worked outside of the state?
I've worked in White Plains. I worked at Big Joe's in White Plains for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
That's about it. I commuted there. I worked in Norwalk. Big Joe's in Norwalk for a brief amount of time. That's it. I've always been here.
And you have no real want to? Or, I mean, I tried to, this past year, we tried to get, I wanted to get the group to go out to a convention. I still want to do it. Hopefully we can do it before the end of the year, But that particular one, half of us were away, and it was just a pain in the ass.
Well, that's happened a couple times. We've tried to book like a show all together, and then there's been other things.
Yeah, the idea of trying to get 5 tattooers, 6 tattooers to get a clear schedule where we can all go, and then on top of that, not closing the shop because there'd be a handful of people here still, but it is a lot. It is an awful lot. And picking the right show. I mean, because I don't want to just go somewhere. I want to go someplace that I think we'd all enjoy because I want to go for an extra day before, an extra day or two after, and go as a group, not just go and work. If I'm going to do that, I'll just do it by myself, and just bounce out when the show is over. Hell City would have been one of those shows, but it's an expensive convention.
It is.
And the idea of getting a booth for 5 people. Oh no! Of course, Hell City's one of the best. I would go as far as to say. From my experience, and I will admit that I am an asshole with a good chunk of the promoters that run conventions today, so take everything I say from this point with a grain of salt. But I would go as far as to say that Derb probably puts on the best show in the States. Like back in the day when I first started tattooing, you had JD Crow and Dennis Dwyer who did the tattoo tour conventions, which were fucking tremendous. You had the Richmond convention. You had the original Philadelphia conventions, the Eddie conventions, before Troy got his hands on it and turned it into this fucking nightmare. There were certain shows that you really, really look forward to, and it's nice to see things going back the other way. Like Derb's show never really got bigger than the hotel. Like he's added more booths and it's gotten bigger in a sense, but it's not gotten any bigger than it needed to. You know what I mean?
It's not bloated.
No, it's not bloated. You know what I mean? It's not bloated. He does an amazing job, takes care of the artist, brings people through the doors every time. The show looks about as good as any show I've ever been to. And then like the other shows are more, I guess maybe more nostalgic, like the Eddie show, the Philadelphia Eddie conventions, the original Richmond shows were just super nostalgic because they were fresh. Like there weren't a lot of shows back then, not like today. So yeah, from that perspective, I think I would love to take everybody to Hell City, but it's just cost-wise, it's too much. But there's a couple of other shows that are coming up, like there was the one that just happened in Memphis that I thought would be really fun, mainly because I want to go back to Graceland. And I thought Adam would have enjoyed it. And I was like, well, Adam's not here, and fucking shit, that's half the, he's not there. It's going to be 3 or 4 of us instead of 5 or 6 of us. I'm like, all right, we'll find something.
Didn't you guys end up going to the Price is Right or something?
Don't even. Why you gotta bring that up, dude? Like, that was not fun. No offense
to the Price is Right.
Tiff and fucking Christian, but yeah, fuck the Price is Right. Yeah, so I mean, I think that I still do want to pull everybody together for a trip, and again, I like the idea of doing stuff as a group. I mean, it's a lot of fun, especially when you have something. Because going away by myself, while it is fun because I'm going to run into my friends, it would be nice to introduce everybody else to stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, I love Hell City. I try and do both of them whenever they have them. I'm doing the one coming up here in May.
It's only 3-4 weeks away.
Yeah. So excited for that one. I'll do Phoenix again. Phoenix isn't always as good for me appointment-wise and money-wise but you go there to party out with a bunch of tattooers.
It seemed
and have
like
fun.
it seemed like Phoenix. I did the first one, and first of all, it's Phoenix in Arizona. It's Arizona
Phoenix in
in
the summertime.
fucking August.
Yeah, that's why we can do it there.
I'm a fat man, dude. No, that's just insane.
Yeah, Kelly didn't really love it when she
No,
went
dude,
there.
it's
That was
horrible.
I think that was one of the first times I hung out with Kelly, and I don't think she did it again. She did the Ohio one pretty reasonably.
Well, Ohio is it's Ohio. I mean, it's a normal part of the
It's
world.
Ohio in the springtime. It's actually really nice
Yeah,
there.
it's
where,
actually beautiful. Yeah. What other shows have you? So you've done Avion.
I've done Evian. I've done Tahoe a bunch of times. I didn't go last year because my cat got sick. This year, I just failed at getting that on the books, and like I procrastinate everything. So like if I'm left to book things, sometimes I fuck up like that. Thank God for Marvin Silva because he's the reason that I have.
Oh,
booth
for,
at
yeah, I
House
was going to
City.
say, because every time you sit on his booth.
Yeah, every time we travel together, he's the dude that's got the paperwork. He gets, the booth book.
It
he gets the
usually,
hotel stuff.
usually requires one individual who's got his shit together.
Yes, and Marv definitely has it better than me. I don't know if he's got help, if his wife's doing this, or he's doing it all on his own, but he seems to be organized. And
That's been one of my things. Like, I've never asked Tiff to run the convention stuff for me. Like, I do all that stuff on my own.
Didn't she used to go with you to conventions? And
Well,
handle the
when
table?
we originally started doing shows, when she got hired here, I would bring her to conventions to help her at the front of the table. But then it got to a point where merchandise for me slowed down so much that it wasn't worth it anymore.
Yeah.
So it was just, you stay home, I'm going to do this. So when she was going to shows, she was booking our hotel rooms and stuff. But I still had to do the actual booth and everything else. But again, a lot of the booths have been very fortunate. A lot of them get comped and stuff like that, so it wasn't too bad. The European shows are probably the best as far as I'm concerned. If you ever get a chance to go there, you fucking should. Don't turn it down because you get all weird about fucking flying or something.
I'm not weird about anything. I just never really had a desire to go anywhere. But I mean, like, if we were going, if you're like, hey, the shop's going, like, yeah, I'm fucking.
Europe is going to be that may be a little bit. That's a lot.
No, I'm just saying.
Although it would be amazing. Like I went to Japan with Eric once. I'm trying to think. Christian and I went to Italy twice and Spain once. And European shows are great, but again, you usually spend a little extra time there. Last time I did Rome, 2 years ago, I took Rodney Raines with me, and we had an absolute fucking blast. The convention was fair as far as work was concerned for me. It was bad for Rodney, but they had people for the door. But again, you can't hold it against anybody. It's a couple of years after COVID. Shit's bad, man. And Europe, I think, is even more affected than us because they're smarter than the average American. They don't realize that there's a fucking recession on, so they're not spending the money like we are here. But yeah, we got to spend 8 days in Europe, and it was fucking incredible. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I absolutely adore that. That was amazing. What do you have, like, as far as what are you hoping to do besides Hell City coming up in May?
I may do Visionary, which is in Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Okay, I did that one. It was just in fucking Alex Gray's fucking private studio in New York.
John runs that one, and he's great. I hung with him a little bit at Evian this year, last year technically. And he was like, "Yeah, come on back," because I don't think I've done it since I worked at Night Owl. It's been a couple of years. But me and Christian used to do that one before I was even really like tattooing at shows. So like he tattooed me there. I got to meet everybody, and then I worked it a few times, and it's a good time. And now it's at the hotel, so like the Berkeley Hotel, I think it's called.
Okay.
Johnny Cash used to own it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. No.
So it's right across the street from the old venue, which was on the beach, but didn't have AC the first couple times we were there, and that was kind of gross and hot and miserable. And like then it got slightly better. I think they got AC, but it was still. It was like an amphitheater.
It's like
it wasn't
kinda raw,
really.
yeah.
It was
Raw.
not great as far as
You need a
convention.
hotel, I think,
Yeah.
for a small convention.
I haven't done it since it's been at the hotel, and that's part of what he was selling me with this year. Dude, come back, check it out. It's nice now. It's in the hotel. You don't have to go anywhere. You just go up to your room. Oh, okay, that's cool. I'd way rather do that because we stayed at the hotel anyways.
Right,
You just had
right.
to wander over. But yeah, I think I'm trying to keep it low this year just because like conventions haven't been what they used to be. They're not always profitable. Hell City is for me the most consistent one. When I go to Ohio, even if I'm not booked, I usually get stuff to do, and 9 out of 10 times it's fun stuff.
Right.
Like I said, Phoenix is kind of a crapshoot for me. A lot of my friends pre-book before they get there, and I do sometimes, but again, I'm bad at marketing and I procrastinate. So But yeah, I think those ones, maybe the Jersey one, and then maybe one other one, and that's probably going to be it for the year. Just because I don't really want to do that. Maybe I'll do some guest spots or something. I've been wanting to go visit friends in Tennessee, California, and stuff like that, and just hang with them. Because at least then you get to explore the local area with people that know what they're doing, and you get to hang with your homies a little bit more, and it's like not the pressure of working a convention. So
Right.
those are always fun.
Cool. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to add, or ready to wrap it up? Keeping it simple.
Tight.
Want to thank everybody for tuning in to this latest episode of Not for Nothing. Like and subscribe. We're having a bunch more coming on. This is Shane and Joe. These are just two of the several guys I work with. I am hoping to do everybody else shortly, so keep an eye out for all that. Thank you very much, and see you when I see you.